countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, and it is now time for more of the Last Comic Shop podcast.
That is right. We are opening up the shop to newbies to help them find their way underneath this giant comic book tent.
And we're keeping the lights on for the oldies and the moldies who are maybe trying to look for something new they haven't read 100 times over, and they have something planned and that falls through, and then they're like, Jay, we need something, stat! And it comes through.
Wow, yes. Behind the scenes this week, we did have another episode planned. At the last second, some things needed to shift around, and we looked at JA to fill us in with a book that we could read fairly quickly.
Yeah, we were gonna zig. We gotta zag, Jay, zag. And he's like, I'm on this. Bam.
Yes. I'm the host with the most, Andy Larson. I'm joined by Chad Smith, and the guy that's always on it, that is Jay Scott. He knows when to zag and zig, and we're hoping that you enjoyed his zig this week. With which book, J.A.?
We called them Giants.
Now, to be fair, this is a comic book that J.A. has recommended on previous episodes. So, I'm sure it's always nice to have those recommendations, right? Because then you're just like, oh, remember when I said that book? Let's do it.
We call them in a pinch. No, because George from Shortbox is all like, why is it always the year of Chad? Where's the year of J.A.?
This could be the beginning of the year of J.A. This is definitely a year of J.A. book.
I'm kind of hesitant about a year of J.A. I don't know if I want to read that much X-Men or Silver Surfer, to be honest.
There is, with Silver Surfer, you don't have to worry. We've read a lot of it already.
Man, regardless, it is J.A.'s pick, and we hope that you enjoy. They might be giants. We called them Giants. That's right. I like that band. What can I say? Any case, speaking of bands, speaking of the summertime, speaking of zigging and zagging all over the place, one thing that this time of year always reminds me are road trips, right? The good summertime road trip, right? And as a kid, I came from a big family, and one of the greatest things that we used to do on road trips to pass the time before we had, a Game Boy was to do trivia in the car. That's right. Movie trivia or music trivia. The best kind of trivia was just random trivia. So that is what we're going to do for the opening segment on this week's show. We are going to put J.A. and Chad in a random trivia challenge. That's right.
Can't we just do the alphabet game where we read the road signs and find all the letters?
Can't we just play Punch Bug?
I used to love, J.A. had one of those road sign
bingo.
Yeah, I used to love that. I really did. That was priceless. Well, although you had to go on the back roads in order to get them all. You couldn't go on a major highway because you would never see cows ever or a railroad.
Hey, Pennsylvania Turnpike has some cows.
I'm not talking at the rest stops.
Yeah, the cow crossing sign though was.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into our random trivia challenge for this week. Given that Chad is oftentimes the winner of these trivia challenges, we're going to let the challenger, Jay Scott, decide whether he wants to go first or second. Again, it's going to be 10 questions. Best score out of 10 will win the challenge. So
I will go first.
Ooh, J.A. is going to go first. Now, again, this is completely random.
Triangle.
None of these questions have anything to do with anything. They're just all over the place. And all of them will be multiple choice. Question number one.
Multiple guess?
Yes.
That too. Question number one, J.A. According to Japanese legend, a sick person can recover if they fold 1,000 types of what kind of origami? Would that be dragons, fish, frogs, or cranes?
Cranes.
That is correct. According to the Japanese legend, a crane lives for 1,000 years, and a sick person who folds 1,000 origami cranes will become well again.
Cranes also kicked the ass of Johnny Karate, whoever that guy was, Karate Kid. Cobra Kai.
That's true. So Jay's on the board with his first correct answer. Let's move on to question number 2, J.A. Which is the only king in a standard deck of cards without a mustache? Is that the king of clubs, the king of diamonds, the king of spades, or the king of hearts?
King of diamonds.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is the king of hearts.
Oh, shoot. I was going to go with hearts, and then I said, no, I thought hearts is too obvious. Darn it.
Evidently, according to somebody, diamonds, clubs, and spades are all associated respectively with wealth, war, and death. But in contrast, the heart is an organ that is pure, open, and undisguised, hence a clean-shaven king. Now, he might know this one with question number 3. What does karaoke mean in Japanese? Does it mean shower singer, empty orchestra, frightened orchestra, or drunk singer?
Empty orchestra.
That is correct. Karaoke is a word formed by putting 2 Japanese words together. Kara, which comes from karapo?
Let's have Andy pronounce Japanese words. This will be a fun game.
Which means empty, and oki, which is shortened from okishura, which means orchestra.
Okie dokie. Which means, all right, let's go sing a song.
There you go. All right, JA's doing pretty well. He's got 2 out of the 3. Moving on to question number 4. How long is a jiffy? Is it 1/1,000,000th of a second, 1/1000,000,000th of a second, 1/1,000,000,000th of a second, or 1/4,000,000,000th of a second?
Well, if it's Jiffy Lube, it's like a couple of hours. So I don't know where they're getting this millionth of a second, billionth of a second. Come on. I'm going to go with millionth.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is a trillionth of a second.
Duh.
Believe it or not, a jiffy is an actual unit of time defined in the late 18th century by the scientist Gilbert Newton Lewis as an amount of time it takes for light to travel 1 centimeter in a vacuum, which is about 33.4 picoseconds, or 1/1,000,000th of a second.
So,
Wait.
Can we sue Jiffy Lube for truth in advertising?
I guess you can. I mean, do you think the Flash could change your oil in Jiffy? I don't know. I mean, maybe. I guess.
No.
Strip all the bolts.
It would still be constrained by the amount of time it takes for the oil to come out of your car.
That's true. That is very true. Plus the fact that, like, you would also have to stop for a donut and a coffee. So let's move on to question number 5. Who was Time Magazine's first Man of the Year? Was it Charles Lindbergh, Mahatma Gandhi, Henry Ford, or Adolf Hitler?
Lindbergh.
That is correct. The tradition of selecting a Man of the Year started in 1927 when the Time editors attempted to remedy an editorial embarrassment earlier that year by not having the aviator Charles Lindbergh on the cover following his historic transatlantic flight.
Post-Lindbergh flying, pre-Lindbergh baby, pre-Lindbergh Nazi.
Yes.
What about the cheese? They put on all the Lindberghers. That stinky cheese.
All right. He is 3 out of 5 as he rounds the corner into question number 6. What was the most money ever paid for a cow at an auction? Would that be $67,000, $130,000, $670,000, or $1.3 million?
I'm going to go with the 600. The second one, B.
130,000.
No, it's the million one, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to go back.
That is correct. It is 1.3 million.
Wow.
That Wagyu beef is expensive, my friend.
Believe it or not, it was a Holstein. Mist, a Holstein cow hailed as the probable matriarch of the dynasty of star milk producers, was purchased in 1985 by a group of investors for $1.3 million. So it wasn't even for the beef. It was for the moo juice. That's right.
I wanted the babies.
All right. So now we are 3 for 6, moving into question number 7. J.A., what was the largest number of children born to one woman? Now, not at one time, but just over the course of her life. Would that be 19, 29, 49, or 69?
Oh, I'm going to go with 29.
That is incorrect.
Of course it is.
The correct answer is 69 kids. From 1725 to 1765, a Russian peasant woman, the wife of Fyodor Vlasky, gave birth to 16 sets of twins, 7 sets of triplets, 4 sets of quadruplets, for a total of 69 children.
Is she a cat?
She's something.
All right. So now he's 3 for 7, going into question number 8. What's the animal that undertakes the world's longest migration each year? Is that the Pacific herring, the Arctic tern, the gray whale, or the storm petrel?
Gonna go gray whale.
That is incorrect.
It's the turtle guy from Finding Nemo.
It is the Arctic tern, which is a small bird that travels each year from almost pole to pole. The round trip migration is almost equal to flying all the way around the Earth, totaling 21,000 miles. Nice. See, you're learning something. I don't know if it's anything useful, but hopefully everybody out there is learning at least something.
See, if he was, is it North Star from Alpha Flight? The guy that can just stop and then the Earth revolves around him?
Is that just because of his ego?
No, he can stop physics from affecting
So it's 3 for 8. Let's see if JA can get last 2 to go for an even 50%. I think you might know these actually, JA. Question number 9. What meteorological phenomenon causes a warm current of water to appear every 3 to 7 years in the eastern Pacific Ocean, causing unusual weather conditions all over the world? Is that La Nina, El Nino?
Oh, of course, you're going to give me both of them.
El Hombre, or La Mure?
I'm going to go with El Nino. But
which is Spanish for the Nino.
That is correct. It is El Nino. Every 3 to 7 years, the warm current of air known as El Nino shifts the jet streams, storm tracks, and monsoons from their normal pattern. So there you go. You're at 4 out of 9. Going to the last question, JA. You can't get to 50%. Really put that pressure on Chad. But let's see if you can get this. I feel like you could, given how many books you read. What is the little dot above a lowercase I or J called? Is that the jot, the dribble, the wit, or the tittle?
You said tittle.
I'm going to say tittle.
The tittle. He said he could. That is correct. It is the tittle.
You were the tittle.
Yes.
It was originally a large mark, first appearing in Latin manuscripts, but then was shortened when Roman-style typefaces were introduced. It is thought to be derived from the iota, the smallest letter in the Greek alphabet. So there you go, JA. You did finish off strong with the last 2 questions, finishing 5 out of 10, 50%, putting that pressure on Chad. Chad has to get 6 of the following 10 questions right in order to win. All right, you ready, Chad? You ready for yours?
I'm ready for all the titillation this quiz can inspire.
All right. Question number 1 for you, Chad. What are the names of the 2 stone lions in front of the New York Public Library? Is that humility and kindness, prudence and integrity, patience and fortitude, or honor and courage?
Prudence and integrity is my guess.
That is incorrect.
What?
It is patience and fortitude. Patience and fortitude are the beloved icons of New Yorkers visiting that famous library. They were modeled by sculptor Edward Clark Potter and carved in pink Tennessee marble in 1911. So they've been there almost a long time. Here's your one gimme question, I think. Question number 2 for Chad. Charlie Brown's father was a cartoonist, door-to-door salesman, postal worker, or barber.
Barber is the answer.
Yes, that is correct. Charlie Brown's dad was a barber, just like Peanuts creator Charles M. Schultz's own father was also
After
a barber.
every option, I was like, it's that one. No, it's that one. No, it's that one.
All right.
Who knew Charlie Brown's dad was Brutus the Barber Beefcake?
Okay. Question number 3, Chad. Which poison do apple seeds contain? Is that cyanide, arsenic, strychnine, or ricin?
I'm going to say ricin because that's the last word you said.
That is incorrect. Jay, you got a guess?
Strychnine.
No, it's cyanide.
What?
It's cyanide.
Iocane powder.
Apple seeds contain about 700 milligrams of cyanide per kilogram. You'd have to eat 143 seeds to get enough to basically kill you.
Is that why they keep the doctors away? Because
As
too
long
much
as
cyanide in that one.
it's not the apples themselves, it's the seeds. You can't eat the seeds. I'm just saying. So, question number 4, Chad. How old was Mary Stuart when she became Queen of Scotland? Yes, that's Mary, Queen of Scots. Was she 6 days old? Was she 6 years old? Was she 16 years old? Or was she 26 years old?
I'm going to say 16 years old. I don't know this answer at all.
That is incorrect. Correct answer is 6 days. Mary, the only surviving legitimate child of King James V, was 6 days old when her father died and she ascended to the throne. She spent most of her childhood in France while Scotland was ruled by regents.
All right.
It's shite being Scottish.
All right. So right now you're what? One for 4.
Oh, I did get Charlie Brown. That's right.
You did get Charlie
Of course
Brown.
you
I
did.
got one.
Hey, Chad, if it
Go.
makes you feel any better, I'd probably be 0 for 4 at this point because I wouldn't have gotten the Charlie Brown one.
Question number 5. Who won the first Nobel Prize for medicine? Would that be Ronald Ross, Marie Curie, Ivan Pavlov, or Emil von Berning?
As in, oh, it burns when I pee.
I'll go with option A because I feel like the other two are too well known, but Marie Curie isn't known for health and wellness. Ronald Ross, yeah, that's my guy.
The correct answer was Emil von Berning from Germany, who won the Nobel Prize for medicine for his work on septum therapy, and especially its application against diphtheria, which opened up a new road into the domain of medical science. There you go.
I'm feeling like a big diphtheria right now. Anyway, next question.
All right. 1 out of 5. Chad needs to get at least 4 out of the next 5 questions to tie all of them to win.
Going streaking. Here we go.
All right, Chad. What was the highest denomination bill ever printed in the United States? $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, or $1 million bill?
$1 million.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is 100,000 or 100 grand. Highest current denomination of bill in circulation right now is the $100 bill, but the highest bill ever printed was a 100 grand bill. Actually, it was in circulation from December 18th of 1934 through January 9th of 1935. It was only used for official bank transactions for the Federal Reserve banks. Woodrow Wilson is pictured on the front.
Next question.
All right, Chad. Here's a gimme one. Let's keep it interesting. Question number 7 for you, Chad.
Name a letter.
When was Diet Coke invented? Was that 1892, 1962, 1982, or 2002?
I'm going to say 1982.
That is correct. It was
Okay.
unveiled on July 8th of 1982. It was the first new brand since 1886 to use the Coca-Cola brand mark. So, yeah. You have a chance still, Chad. You really do. You have a chance to get this all correct. So let's go.
Embarrass myself on the internet. All right. Okay, next question.
Question number 8. What animal can clean its own ear with its tongue? Is that the elephant, the chameleon?
I had a cousin. Never mind.
The sun bear or the giraffe?
I'm going to say giraffe. They're known for notoriously long tongues, right?
That is correct. An adult giraffe's tongue is about 21 inches long and super flexible. A chameleon's tongue is twice as long as its body, but it doesn't have any ear holes. You see how that works? That's why it can't clean its own ear. All right, here's question number 9. Let's see if Chad can get these last 2 questions and tie it all up. Believe it or not, there is a note that most toilets flush on. What is that note? Is it F sharp, C sharp, E minor, or B minor?
Gotta be B minor.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to be B minor.
That is incorrect.
Oh, I won!
On the toilet joke.
The correct answer is E minor. The most effective way to hear the E minor flushing is to blast some bagpipe jigs. The whiny, high-pitched bagpipe notes make it easier to hear the lower E minor of the toilet.
I don't know what your bathroom experience is like, but rarely am I blasting a bagpipe jigs.
Yes.
All right.
Are you saying that you don't have Scotland the Brave playing while you're on the throne?
JA does win our useless trivia this year, because I don't think the guys are going to let me do this again. Anyways, coming up next is our review of a comic book, because we still do that on this show. It is We Called Them Giants, and it will be up right after these commercial breaks.
Good job, Jay. Congrats, sir.
Woo! Truly is the year of JA.
Hey, it's Mikey Wood, frequent Last Comic Shop guest and collector. And as a collector, I'm always in need of boards, bags, long boxes, and more to house all those comics. That's why I use promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off my orders at bcwsupplies.com. Not only does it get me a discount on BCW's already low prices, but I know using LCSPOD at checkout is another way I can show my support to the Last Comic Shop podcast and their continuing mission to bring fans together under that big comic book tent. So if you're in need of comic book supplies, head out to bcwsupplies.com and use promo code LCSPOD today. That's LCSPOD.
When you're done listening to this podcast, check out mine. My name is Dave, and I'm the host of Beer in Front. My podcast is just enjoying the beer that's in front of you. Sometimes we forget about a classic beer while we focus on the new trendy thing. What I try to do each week is to enjoy an old school classic or have a beer that has potential to be a classic. I'll also talk about events of the day, I'll add my spin to things, and each week there are people that really annoy me, and I'll call them out as the jag-off of the week. That's Beer in Front, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, we're back with more Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for our Read Pile Review. Yes, that time of every single show where we find a book, got a similar title to a band I like, and then I spend most of the time trying not to say the band I like instead of trying to say the actual title of the book. We Called Them Giants, and JA, who did this particular book?
Okay, so this was a graphic novel put out by Image, done by Kieron Gillan, with incredible art by Stephanie Hans and Clayton Cowles on the lettering. And then design was handled by Becca Carey.
Kieron Gillan, we've actually done a lot of his books on the Last Comic Shop in previous years. We did his Darth Vader run. We did that one where King Arthur was a zombie. Which one was that? Once in Future?
Oh, was that Kieron Gillan?
Yeah, that was Kieron Gillan.
Yeah, Once in Future. That was good. His Loki, remember Loki? Was that Kieron Gillan or is that Al Ewing?
That was Al Ewing. That
Oh,
was Al Ewing. So, but yeah, they're great writer, Kieron, and so I'm glad that we got another book on this week. Plus Clayton Cowles. I think we've done a ton of Clayton Cowles books.
in our defense, he's done a ton of books. He just does them all.
He does. He very much does. But speaking of this particular book, Chad, what happens? Give us the 10-cent synopsis. Are there a lot of giants? Do they sing Istanbul, not Constantinople?
Nope, there are no songs about the sun as a mass of incandescent gas. That's a giant nuclear furnace. But anyway, We Called Them Giants was an original graphic novel, like Jay was mentioned. It was released last year in 2024, and it follows Lori, who was an orphan and adopted by a family, and they promised to get her a cat, and they did not get her a cat because they disappeared along with everybody else. Well, mostly everybody else. There's a couple of people still around in this post-apocalyptic dystopian thing where Lori leaves her house and runs into a friend from school called Annette. Annette's the optimistic, plucky one, and they have to survive in this world where everyone has disappeared except for a handful of folks. And they run into roving gangs of people in plague masks, the plague doctor masks, but they're the dogs. And then eventually they run into giants. There's two. There's a red one and there's a green one, and then there are wolves involved, and then there's an old lady, and they learn to live together, and drama ensues, I guess. And there you go. And they call them giants because they're real big and made out of flamey things or greeny things.
Yes.
The red giant feeds them,
He does.
tries
Some
to
sort of-
communicate with them. He talks to them, blah, 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 blah.
Very patronizing way.
Right. And I was trying to figure out what kind of soup that was. It's a nice, delicious soup, but he always makes it.
I didn't want to give too much away, but basically the red giant keeps the remaining humans as his pets. They just feeds them, and sometimes he forgets, and they're like, "Hey!" and they throw a pot at his head, and he turns around and is like, "Ah, blah 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 blah," and he gives them their water again. It's real cute.
Yeah. So with my initial thought of this particular book, I really liked it, honestly. This was a really fast read. Not only is it only 100 some pages long, but it kind of flew by because the story is pretty well paced, and it actually does something that a lot of other post-apocalyptic books don't do, which is explain what the hell happened. It doesn't actually matter to this particular book. Unlike, I don't know, oh, look, there's these fungus things that are making people into zombies, or there was a nuclear holocaust, or, oh, there was not enough bread.
Yeah. How heartbreaking is it when Annette's like, "Oh, I think it was the rapture when all the good people disappear." And then Lori's like, "Yeah, I don't believe in good people. I'm not buying that one."
I know.
That was so sad.
But they don't spend any time talking about what actually happened. And by the end of the book, you really still don't know. You don't know whether it had anything to do with the giants coming to Earth. The giants are just there. It doesn't spend a lot of time explaining what the heck happened, which is refreshing, honestly, from a post-apocalyptic story, because in my opinion, you really don't need to know what happens, because this book isn't about a post-apocalyptic universe. This book is about what happens when the people in your life leave you. That's the way I took it. This is a story about moving on, adapting to change in that way. Again, Lori is a type of character who she's been bounced around from every single foster home to foster home. And the first thing out of her mouth was, "I wanted a cat. And I came downstairs because they promised me a cat. And I thought this was going to be my forever home with these people." And they went through all the adoption papers and everything. Turns out they left me too. And even when her other friends trust the giant, who's obviously taking care of her, she feels like there's some sort of ulterior motive or some other reason why he might be doing this, again, to the analogy of pets, and he just wants to keep them hostage or whatever it happens to be. But it turns out he's doing it all out of love. He cares for these humans, and he does everything in this book. And so it's just a matter of learning to trust again after having that trust broken. And so
She's a rescue pet. Lori's a rescue pet.
Right. And so, yeah, it didn't really matter why people disappeared. In fact, people didn't even have to really disappear. It just makes the story easier to tell because there's less people for Laurie to depend on. And she really does have to ultimately depend on this giant.
This is definitely, it strikes me as like a young A book or a YA book where this is, it was a nice, crisp story. It's about 100 pages. You get in, it reads really quickly. And it's that found family aspect, after somebody feels like they've been abandoned, they're starting over again. Like, that's the process you want to go through for the metaphor. But really, like, I was struggling to find more to it other than the giant takes them in and makes them their dog. And then they find the other giant, like, oh, that's the mean giant who's out there to destroy things. Luckily, we've got this one. And then the giants tussle, and, Laurie learns to love, or what love is all about. And it's a nice, quaint book, but really, the big thing for me was the art and just how beautiful the art was. The bleakness and the desolation early on, when they're alone, the darkness of whenever they're running into the people that are, hoarding food. And you watch her sweet friend who's like all nice and bubbly. And then at one point she finds a can of peaches. And then the other people come and she's like, just give us the damn peaches, and scares the bad guys away. It's all about those little moments here in this book. But then you get into the super colorful moments with the giants. The forms of the giants are the contrast is turned up so high, and they've got, like flames and flowery looking things coming out of there. And it's difficult to comprehend what the giants actually are. As I made it about halfway through, I'm like, oh, this is what dogs must feel like. Like they're staring up at these folks that, we'll feed you, we'll water you, but don't try to leave. You try to leave, we're going to put this thing around your neck and yank you back in here.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much, I think you nailed it with the YA comment, found family and whatnot. But as Andrew said, it's just this sort of learning how to trust. Laurie goes through this whole thing of everyone's left her and learning how to trust and learning how to be loved. Because the red giant, while he can't communicate with them, he is trying to very much care for them and take care of them. But they are so insignificant to him that he needs to be reminded they need things that he obviously doesn't need. He doesn't need to eat. He just likes to provides them with everything the body needs. It's like that gruel that they're eating in Matrix.
I feel like when I leave my dog and I go to work, like, I wake up in the morning, we spend a little bit of time together, and then I disappear for 7 or 8 hours. Mm-hmm. And what's the giant doing?
Yeah, but what drew me to this was not so much the story, because going in, I had no idea what the story was. It was the cover. I seriously bought this for the cover alone, which is this giant reddish, purplish, Galactus-like hand descending on Laurie, looking up at the hand and holding a hockey stick. So that had all the things that I love. Galactus-like beings and ice hockey and giant hands.
You're underselling the hockey stick. It's got the nails sticking out of it like a Cactus Jack style pro wrestler weapon.
Yes.
Which is highly effective against some of those wolves. I mean,
the real wolves or the gang wolves?
No, the real wolves. Like, she's able to hold her own at least for a hot second with the real wolves. It was weird when the wolves showed up on the scene, right? Initially, I was like, are they really wolves? Because it depends. Like, Stephanie Hans kind of plays a little bit with perspective at times with the wolves. She does it also with the giants, to be honest. Depending on where the point of view is, the giants can actually be giant, like they can be enormous, but they also can be kind of like human looking. They can, you forget about anything to give it perspective. So you don't see the humans next to the giant. And then so all of a sudden it's big. Same thing with the wolves. Like the first time the wolf comes in, you're like, oh, is this just like a wolf like you would see in any sort of post-apocalyptic story? Like
the ice wolves in The Day After Tomorrow. That's the one thing I learned. We don't protect the environment, we're going to get ice wolves.
There you go. But later on, when she goes back and she has her second encounter with the wolves, no, they're enormous. They are truly terrifying creatures. I feel like this book and I don't like to talk too much about spirituality a little bit, but I think that there's some aspects of this particular book that folks that may be a little bit spiritual might latch on to. This post-apocalyptic story being the fact, again, what I said before, what if everybody left you? Like, what if you didn't have anybody? Like everybody that you had counted on, all your friends, all your, former family, whatever, they all left you. And then all of a sudden, something bigger than yourself, let's just say that, something bigger than yourself comes into your life and, I don't know, takes care of you, gives you what you need. And you keep on saying like, oh gosh, there must be a ploy behind this. There must be something that this thing wants from me. And it turns out, no, it just wanted to love you. And
as long as you poop in the yard and not in the
I'm serious though. So for those folks that may be a little more spiritual, I think this is a really good book in that regard, because it does touch upon some of those things. I'm kind of skating around, and I hope you see what I'm skating around, but I really feel like for those folks that have that in their life, they may read into this and see some of what I feel like Kieron is laying down from some of the panels.
I'm digging your metaphors today. I feel like it's a lot deeper than they're dogs. People are dogs.
Exactly.
You got a whole spirituality, and we're like, don't poop in the yard, dogs.
That's right.
If you do, somebody's got to scoop that up.
The fact that he's trying to talk, the giant's trying to talk. The fact that we didn't know what it was, and and Lori says it's an it, like it's an it, but everybody else calls it a he, and you're like, oh, well, it's weird. It's weird, but like it's trying to talk, and it just can talk and just blah blah blah, and in the effect, I don't know. I just think you can see it like that.
There you go. Can I mention the one thing that's like, I shouldn't get hung up on this, but I did. So you have these people that are living with this giant, and like they're snuggling up at night and all this stuff, which that I perfectly accepted. But it's the fact they never change their clothes. The entire story. That's got to chafe something fierce. Nobody's ever washing clothes. Nobody's ever changing the outfit. I mean, they don't even things don't even get scuffed. Like this has to be a total fantasy scenario where you just, you have magic pants that never need cleaned or anything. That giant's not doing laundry.
Yeah, I think it's the same as you don't see them going to the bathroom or anything. Come on.
You're a child of the 80s. How many times did cartoon characters change their clothes?
Charlie Brown never changed his clothes.
Yeah, Fred Flintstone was always in the same shirt and tie.
Yeah, but each of them would open up their closet. And you'd see all the different sets of the same thing.
Well, maybe that's what happens here. Maybe Annette has that same hat 1,000 times. Maybe the giant creates these hats for them. Maybe laying on the giant cleans their clothes like some sort of dry cleaner. You never know. You never know.
I like that. Now you're on to a theory.
Looking for.
Yes.
See, there's a lot in this book that is up to your imagination and up to your interpretation. And I think that's why this book does sing in some ways, because you can pull out as much as you want. You can pull out very little and say like, oh, this was a cute, YA story about, a girl after being pushed around, and not really having family, finding a family, or you can go way down that rabbit hole and start talking about dry cleaning giants. That's the scope of this particular book. That's why I like it.
There you go. I just like the colors. I like the pictures and the colors. Sometimes it's bleak and dreary. Sometimes it's blue. Sometimes you get that green stuff. It's good. Lots of colors.
Very painterly. It feels like watercolors. A lot of the art.
Yeah, no, I dig the art as well. I really do. I like the color choices. Red and green. And it's weird that like they made the good guy red, right? Usually red means danger, halt, stay away. And the green usually means like, that's calm, that's soothing, that's earth tones.
Yes. Yeah. Unless you're in China. In China, they switched it. And they even wanted to do it with the stoplights.
Oh.
Back when Mao was in. Because they're red. They're communists. So they wanted to make red means go. So here's the thing. Like if you see a stock ticker, stock board in the States, like stocks that are in red are down, while stocks that are in green are up. Well, it's opposite in China.
Well, it's absurd to think we would all have the same symbols I buy into the Jungian psychology, but like I'm sure there have to be other cultures out there like, no, blue is go.
But what I love is when newspaper editors who don't know this are writing about like stocks crashing in Asia and invariably find a stock photo of a stock board in China and it's all red. And I'm like, that means all the stocks are doing well, you nincompoop.
See, we're still filling you with useless trivia that you can talk about the next time you're at your local pub. We've got to get to our commercial break for this segment. So we'll be right back with more Last Comic Shop. We've got ratings and recommendations, so stay tuned for that.
Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto, all things that we love, all manga that were originally published in the legendary magazine Weekly Shonen Jump.
But not every series can run for 300 chapters and have a hit anime. This is David.
This is Jordan.
We're the hosts of Shonen Flop. Each episode we look at manga that ran in Jump that didn't quite make it.
We discuss what it did wrong, what it did right, how the series could have turned itself around, and ultimately, was it a flop or not?
Run all your favorite podcast apps, and you can find us at shonenflop.com.
Keep on flopping, floppers.
From Fantagraphics, The Santo Sisters Volume 1 hardcover collection. Compiling issues 1 to 5 of the hit indie comic book series. Join Amber and Alana, two ordinary girls with extraordinary powers, as they fight crime, date dumb guys, and try to stay sane in a world full of assassins, zombies, crazy ex-girlfriends, and more. A mix of Archie comics meet Love and Rockets, with a healthy dose of kick-ass action. Order your copy today.
All right, we are back with more of the Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for ratings, where, again, I'm not sure how much more useless trivia we can cram into this episode, but one thing we're going to cram in is a 1 out of 4 scale from J.A. Scott, and J.A. is going to give us what for this week?
Giants. There were only 2 of them in the book, but this book could be 1 out of 4 of them.
There might be more.
There very well could be. Again, they give you a very, very tiny sliver of this universe that these 2 girls wake up in. They don't spend a lot of time explaining what the heck happened or are there more giants? I think that's where I'll start off with my particular grade. First and foremost, I'm going to give this a good solid 3.75, right? Like, I'm not going to give it a 4 because I don't want to say that it was simple, because it wasn't. There was something that's keeping me from being a 4. Despite the wonderful art, despite the clear and succinct storytelling here, it did seem like it was telling a parable, a story with a moral at the end of it. Sometimes it's a good moral to hear, but it is a moral that I've heard oftentimes before. So I think that's what kind of keeps me from it being 4. But it's amazing to me how, like in other books, the focus would have probably been Lori and Annette's struggle against that dog gang, right? Like if you think about like Walking Dead, Last of Us or whatever, the stories would be about how the humans are interacting with each other, right? And that would be the crux of the story. But no, they're there, but really in essence, all they're there for is a more of a reason for Lori and Annette to have to move closer and closer to the giant and ultimately come under its care. It's like a forced migration towards the giant. It's just keep the story moving, which is neat. I like the fact that they don't explain what the heck happened, why all the people disappeared. I'm glad they don't spend a lot of time with the roving street gangs. That is a story I've heard 1,000 times before, and I'm glad we're not spending a lot of time there. And I am a spiritual person, so I did get a little bit more out of this. And so if I was talking to folks like that, I'd probably say you should check this book out, because I feel like you're going to get something out of it given in that spirituality that you have. So 3.75. It's a great book, great art, and reads real fast. Chad.
Yeah, so I didn't like it as much. Let me rephrase that. I thought this was good, but for a lot of the reasons you mentioned, I feel like it didn't have enough meat on the bone to be something that I would recommend all the time. But I do think there is a time and a place for this book. I think there are people that this would reach and they would really enjoy it. Like everything they do well. It's very thoughtful. There's a heart to it. And I like all those things. The art was beautiful. That was good. At around 100 pages or so, it just didn't feel meaty enough to be substantial for me. So I'm going to go with a 3. I like the ideas here. I like the concepts, but I feel like it's a third of a story. Like, we get the found family aspect. We get someone finding something bigger than themselves, but it all ends too soon for me to really truly be able to embrace this. But like I said, there are lots of folks out there, and I feel like this could reach a lot of people, and folks could really enjoy it and take a lot out of there. So I'm not trying to knock it. It just wasn't for me this week.
I'm going to give it a 3.5. I agree with you. I mean, it's nice and contained, and I do like the fact, Andrew, as you alluded to, that it doesn't bother to try to tell you what happened. But there's a danger in that sort of mystery box type storytelling. And when it's done well, you either don't bother with it, which I think this book does well. It doesn't make it a feature. I hate mystery box storytelling when that becomes the feature. I think anything that J.J. Abrams did and how it starts out great and then it crashes and burns because it turns out the mystery boxes aren't that mysterious or they're not that good. This doesn't do that so much because it just doesn't bother to care about what the mystery is, why everyone disappeared, where these giants came from. That being said, I think that leaves a lot of meat off the bone, to Chad's point, where you could add some backstory, or maybe that's a next chapter. It feels a bit like a story treatment as opposed to the full story at times. But maybe that's a feature, not a bug. Maybe that's what they were trying for. They were trying for this nice, quiet, quick, contained story. The art is incredible. The story in itself is a full circle. If you accept that you're not going to find out, where these giants came from, what happened to everyone on Earth. If you just accept that, it's an incredibly well-told story. But, I could see like a part 2 or a part 3 that fleshes out some of that and we get some more giants and I would love to see the creature design, because the creature design of the giants too, they're sort of sinewy and the red ones looks like he's got these spikes coming out that at times looks like feathers, at other times it looks like he's got a big furry boa across his shoulders and their hair and like 6 eyes sometimes and 1 eye. It's just, it's imaginative. And she walks around with a hockey stick with nails on it. It's freaking awesome. I'm going to give it a 3.5.
All right. Well, it's now time to wrap up the show with recommendations. So in addition to We Called Them Giants, which you can pick up at your local comic book shop, we hope that you pick up these other comics and I won't lie, mine's a manga that you can check out. So all of that available at your local comic book shop. We're going to go ahead and start off with Chad Smith. So Chad, what do you got for us this week?
Okay, so some behind-the-scenes baseballs we mentioned. We had to switch gears for the book this week, and fortunately Jay picked one that not only was a high-quality piece of graphic literature, but it was also very quick. And on my way out the door, I grabbed another one that was a fun, quick story that was, if you take all of the elegance and the thoughtfulness and the beauty in We Called Them Giants, and you trade that for cartooning and badassery and just silly, nonsensical violence, in equal measures, you get Kyle Stark's Kill Them All. And I had a lot of fun with this. If you are familiar with Kyle Starks, who we've had on the show before, I'm thinking things like Karate Prom and, what's his Hopo one? The Rock Candy Mountain. But this is one where there's an ex-cop who's trying to work his way back on the force. And so he wants to go and take down this one guy who's holed himself up in this apartment complex. And in the meantime, there's an assassin who also, for reasons that are personal, wants to get into the penthouse of this complex. And so they go through and they have to kill everyone they encounter in big cartoony badass fights. I don't want to spoil a whole bunch because It's just fun to experience it. But at one point, they're in the stairwell, and a shower of bullets is raining down upon them. And so the one disgraced drunk cop takes one of his guns and throws it in the air, and then shoots his gun at the trigger with his other gun. And that, in turn, shoots up the stairwell and gets their would-be assassins right between the eyes. There's blood spray everywhere. It's the opposite of the thoughtful treatment that We Called Them Giants was. It's kill them all. And there was a deluxe edition that just came out in January. So it's fun ridiculousness. And I enjoyed that too in a different way.
All right. Well, as I mentioned previously, I am going to be recommending a manga this week. And it is a manga that is near and dear to my heart because I've actually experienced this entire manga and anime series with my son. My son had an interest in experiencing Hunter x Hunter. And so lo and behold, we watched the entire anime series together. And now we're in the process of reading the mangas, which if you've never checked out Hunter x Hunter, it's got some similar themes to what we get here in We Called Them Giants. A weird world where a young adult is trying to make their way through, finding friends, going on adventures, learning how to trust, learning how to grow. We've got Gon Freaks, who is your typical manga protagonist. His father, Gene Freaks, is the greatest hunter in the world. And these are folks that go all the way around the world. You have to go through a special testing to become a hunter. And they fight bad guys and hunt monsters and all this crazy jazz. And all he wants to do is become a hunter. So for the first couple volumes of the manga, that's what he's doing. He meets another kid called Killua. He meets two other friends that are taking the test in Kurapika and Leorio. They make a fine quartet that ends up finishing the hunter exam and becoming these licensed hunters. The great thing for folks that have never checked out Hunter x Hunter before is the fact that they are re-releasing all of the volumes of the manga in those 3-volume super books that for those folks that read like One Piece, they're probably very familiar with. They've released volumes 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. And just 2 weeks from now, on August 19th, they'll be releasing 7, 8, and 9, which gets into the real meat of the story in which Gon and Killua discover Nen, which is this kind of martial arts superpower that allows, it manifests itself in different ways for different folks. But if you learn Nen, then you can move mountains and create clones of yourself and all kinds of super cool things. So I would highly recommend that you check out Hunter x Hunter. The entire series was done by Yoshiro Togashi. I've already experienced all of this with the fantastic anime that you can find on Hulu, the entire series. But it's nice to have the manga too. So that's what I'm reading now. J.A.?
I'm going to recommend a book that's kind of up your alley, Andrew, as it was originally published as a serial in Science Fiction magazine back in the 50s, 1957 through 59, called The Eternaut. This was a Spanish science fiction serial that ran in Argentina as El Eternauta by Hector Germán Osterheld with art by Francisco Solano Lopez. A very, very famous science fiction series out of Argentina that was just translated into English in 2016 by Fantagraphics. And it's the story of this group of friends are playing cards when it starts to snow in Buenos Aires. And the snow is poison, and if it touches you, you die. And ends up killing like most of the people in Buenos Aires. And you find out later most of the people in South America because it's an alien invasion. There's not a lot of people left on Earth, and they have to wear masks and wrap up if they want to go outside, and then they start to find out what's going on and to fight these aliens back. And the aliens, do they turn out to be bad, or someone's forcing them to be bad? So there's a lot of commentary about sort of what Buenos Aires was going through in the late 50s, interwoven with all this science fiction stuff. Great black and white art. Was turned into a Netflix show earlier this year. And this man, the lead protagonist, he's called an Eternaut because an astronaut through eternity. He gets this power at the end, and that's how the book begins. He's gone back to like meet his former self because he can travel through dimensions of space and time. So it's some very heady science fiction work. It was redone then in the 60s. The similar story with a different artist that he changed some of the aspects of the story, and that's called The Eternaut 1969. So I'm recommending the original, but you can get both out of Fantagraphic Books. It was nominated and won an Eisner in 2016.
Was that considered a graphic novel album reprint? Is that what they won?
It won for Best Archival Collection or Project strips.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that out. That sounds awesome. Maybe that should be a year of JA pick.
Yes. We might have to look into that because I've been watching the Netflix show as well. It's quite good. The Netflix show is also in Spanish, so you're going to have to read subtitles unless you speak Spanish.
Well, we're hoping that some of our Spanish-speaking friends of The Last Comic Shop check that book out, as well as the rest of our recommendations and the Read Pile review we had this week. You can always check out recommendations and Read Piles every single week at The Last Comic Shop by going out to www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com and rate, reviewing, and subscribing. The summer is coming to an end, but that doesn't mean The Last Comic Shop is coming to an end anytime soon. That's right. We're going to have brand new episodes all through the rest of this year, including awesome episodes around, Halloween with, spooky related stories. We've got DC Ember way, way further down the pike. We always talk about DC comic books to wrap up the year, but you can make sure that you don't miss any of these awesome books and episodes by, again, rate, reviewing, and subscribing, kids. It's just that easy.
There you go. And you can always check us out on the social medias, including places like Blue Sky and YouTube. We're the Last Comic Shop podcast in both of those spots, where you can find things like the Golden Age covers to put you to bed at night. You can find comic book flip-throughs. You can find weird and silly observations and connections to all of our other podcast pals, and all that stuff and more is out there on our socials. And plus, while we might be the Last Comic Shop podcast, we don't want to be the Last Comic Shop, so we want to take this opportunity to encourage you guys to get out there, get to your shops, look for things like we called them giants, look for things like Kill Them All, which, by the way, very R-rated on that Kill Them All thing. So it's not the YA notes that we called them giants as. We have Hunter x Hunter, which is that one safer for the kiddos, Andy, you'd say?
I'd say it's about 13. I think that's, 13, 14 years old. I wouldn't go any lower than that, especially later volumes. Racy ladies in there.
We'll not talk about that here, but we will talk about the Eternauts, or El Eternata, as it was in Argentina originally, which while Jay was talking, I was Googling this thing. This looks awesome. We definitely have to check this out at some point. But out of Fantagraphics, all that and more potentially waits for you at your local comic shop, so check those folks out today. And then circle back to www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, where you can find what this week, J.A.?
Always have a link to our merch store. So we sell t-shirts, coffee mugs, tote bags to carry around all those new books you're buying at your local comic book shop. This week, a special on giant-sized t-shirts, like huge ones. That you can wrap up almost like a blanket, or one of those, maybe those super long ones. What are those called? Where you can actually you put your head through it.
Yeah, the snuggies.
Yeah, the snuggie.
Yes.
I don't know.
Went down to your ankles.
Shirts. Yeah.
I need some of these giant t-shirts. I also need something to keep all my comic books in. J.A., what's the best way that folks like me that need to protect my comic book collection, they can save some money too?
Well, they can use our promo code LCSPOD, that's LCSPOD, at checkout from bcwsupplies.com. You can get boards, bags, boxes, binders for your baseball cards or your Marvel trading cards or your Pokemon. All of that can be found over at bcwsupplies.com, and use the promo code LCSPOD at checkout to save 10% on your purchase.
And we hope that you definitely do, because a little of that comes back to the Last Comic Shop, and we hope that you not only save some money, but show us a little bit of support. Make sure that if you love our way that we talk about comic books every single week, that you are showing that love, because we surely appreciate it. In any case, we'll be back next week with more comic book fun. Until then, I was the host with most, Andy Larson, and I was joined by Jay Scott and Chad Smith. And we hope that you stay safe, stay cool. It is the dog days of summer out there. And remember that no question is really trivial. I mean, come on. They're all good questions. It's just whether or not you care.
Andy's going all deep on us this week. I don't think it's unnatural to.
That book really got to him.
Yeah. It's freaking me out.
He's been having too much of that giant soup stuff.
Comic Shop Podcast was a 2025 Black Angus production.